I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Rob Frasca, the managing partner at a blockchain venture firm, Cosmo Ventures, director of Oniro, and one of the founding investors of Endow. Rob, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
You're very welcome. I would love to
Absolutely.
kick off our conversation by first just hearing a little bit on your background in the venture space and in blockchain and how that led to you getting involved with Endow.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that. So look, I've got a long history. I'm actually a .com entrepreneur. I used to fly jets for the Navy, and back in the day, in the 90s, I was at Carnegie Mellon as a student there, and I started one of the very first financial services on the internet. In fact, it was the very first commercially available stock quote server on the internet. And when I was 29 years old, I sold that company to Intuit, worked for Intuit. I later went on to create a company called WiseWire, which was the internet's one of the internet's first AI companies. And we sold that to Lycos, where I don't know, most people don't even know Lycos these days, but it was an early portal right behind Yahoo. And we took the company public for over $5 billion, which was quite the ride. So I've been in the tech space now for a little over 30 years and in fintech for 30 years. And today I run with my partners Cosmo Ventures, which is an early blockchain venture capital firm. And we are extremely bullish on what blockchain is and what it brings to the market. We actually believe that blockchain is going to create more value than the internet itself, because it's essentially the decentralized value layer on the internet. And we, I'd say almost 4 years ago, we made a sizable investment into a project called Endow right here. And we're big proponents of Endow, and I'm thrilled to be here today to talk about it.
Definitely, and that's quite the background. Very exciting, all these exits. And yeah, I truly believe as well, Rob, that the blockchain industry is going to be bigger than the internet itself, and putting money on there and putting smart contracts to revolutionize everything in the entire world. And it's very interesting that your team is so bullish on Endow specifically. And I would love to hear why, and first of all, just a little bit about what is Endow for those who aren't familiar with, and then we can dive into the details.
Yeah, absolutely. So, remember, I always kind of go back and I look at my experience as an entrepreneur, right? Multiple companies, multiple exits. And what I always try to do is gauge where we at in the adoption life cycle. Are we in the kind of visionary phase where there's only a couple people buying into the technology? Are we into that early adopter phase where there's more technology, people are more excited about the technology versus the value? Or are we in the later stage? And generally that's about 10% of the market, those two groups. Or are we in that kind of early majority phase where all of a sudden regular people kind of jump into the market and really grab a hold of it because they're attracted to the value? And what I saw with the internet was I lived that, right? I built companies through those different phases. And most of the value in that tech adoption cycle actually happens when the early majority comes online. And the companies that enter the early majority are much different than the early adopters. In fact, Google didn't enter, they were the 12th portal, 13th portal to actually enter the market. We were number 2 at Lycos. We entered in the early adopter phase. Google entered in the early majority phase. Mm-hmm. So what we're looking at here as investors, what we did was we looked at this as investors and we said, where are we at today with crypto and blockchain? And what we saw is that we are right now, I would say today in 2021, on that kind of transition from early adopter to early majority. And what Endow is trying to do is be an early majority solution to the long-term store of value. And a lot of people, I talk to a lot of people in the crypto market, and they go, long-term store of value, I don't get it. Is that a utility token? Is that a stable coin? What's the use case? Well, it turns out that the long-term store of value, digital gold, is actually the largest use case. It's where all the value, it's the big enchilada. And right now, Bitcoin is being used as a long-term store of value, as a hedge against the markets. And what Endow is trying to do is create a next generation of currency that's actually adaptive. It's a currency that's its supply is demand driven, and it actually adapts to the market. Its monetary policy adapts to the market. It's proof of stake, which means you get a yield from it versus having to mine it. And what it really is trying to do is create that long-term adaptive store of value that has a staking yield.
Mm-hmm. Some great points there. And as you mentioned, Google, they weren't first. They're 12th or 13th in the list. And sometimes being first isn't right. And I think just timing is so important. You mentioned being on that cusp between early adopters and early majority. It definitely seems like there's a lot of interest, even institutional interest and retail interest flooding into the market in 2021. And we are on that cusp of a breakthrough. And to have a long-term store of value that's successful in that time of the early majority, I think it is going to be very necessary, because there are a lot of new entrants into the market that are looking for a store of value in a time when a lot of national currencies aren't holding their stores of value. Now, can we talk a little bit about Endow as a store of value? And you sort of compared it to Bitcoin there, maybe some differentiators and what makes it unique in terms of comparing Bitcoin as a store of value to Endow?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I do want to make the point. We are early Bitcoin buyers. We're huge and very much like Bitcoin. In fact, we were buying Bitcoin, years ago, and we're holders. We're not selling it. We're buying it, and we believe in Bitcoin. But with that said, we think that as new markets move in, just like you said, you need to really create additional stores of value beyond Bitcoin. What Endow is trying to do, if you think about Bitcoin is free floating to the market. It's got a limited supply. It's proof of work. It's the leader. It's the first generation. What Endow is trying to do is say, hey, what are the requirements? What are the requirements for long-term store of value? Number one, it needs to have reduced volatility. So it needs to have some kind of system in place to have reduced volatility. Now, there are a lot of people that have created stable coins, right? Which is great because they're flat. They're pegged to an asset, a dollar or a yen or a euro, right? The problem is that if it's pegged to a dollar as a long-term store of value, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to hold the dollar, right? Cash is trash, in my opinion. It's being devalued. So what you want is reduced volatility, but you also want the ability to grow in value as these networks grow, right? All networks grow exponentially, which means, and if all currencies are networks, then all currencies should grow exponentially according to how fast their networks grow. So in the case of Endow, what we wanted was a currency that's adaptive, that understands where it is with respect to its market and adjusts its monetary policy to reduce its volatility. So you want something that reduces volatility. You want something that has the ability to grow in value, but also you want something that actually produces a yield. It has to be competitive with other stores of value. And the beautiful thing about proof of stake is that if I stake my currency, I can actually earn a bonus or a reward, or if you want to use kind of banking language, a yield or income. And so that's really what Endow is trying to do, is create a currency that has the ability to climb in value, has reduced vol. Okay, it's going to be volatile. It's not going to be stable, flat, but it's going to reduce that vol and has the ability to grow as the network value grows. And then what the team did was they said, look, if we're going after the early majority versus the early adopters, we have to layer in more institutional level types of controls or systems. The early adopter can handle, losing their key or sending Bitcoin to the wrong address and going, oh man, I lost that. But the early majority isn't going to handle that. They're not going to be able to deal with that. So Endow actually has multi-sig built in, and it actually has a recourse period in where you could actually unwind a transaction if you wanted to, based on how you set that transaction detail. So long-winded answer to your question, but that's really what we're trying to do: create that next generation store of value in addition to a portfolio of Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Definitely really interesting. And yeah, you mentioned there are a lot of stable coins that are already in the cryptocurrency industry. However, tying it to a dollar, although a dollar is still a dollar next year, in reality, because of inflation, it's really not worth a dollar and it's going down. So you need to have a cryptocurrency that's truly deflationary, or in the case of Endow, I was researching the buoyancy factor, where it actually is increasing in value.
That's right. That's right. And Endow is actually issued. It's a demand-driven supply, which means it's issued on a bonding curve. And so what that means is that it will only issue new currency if the price goes above the current kind of bonding curve or issue price. Mm-hmm. And so every 1,000 Endow that's sold issued, the price ticks up a little bit. So today, for instance, Endow's target price or issue price is around $36. And its trading price, its market price, is around $32 to $33. So it's trading below issue. Mm-hmm. So what that means is that no new currency is going to be issued unless, right? Why? Because there's no demand for it. It's stable. The market's kind of stable at that 32, 33 level. Now, if somebody starts buying up Endow, the demand's going to go up. And then that means that if the demand goes up, the price goes up. And if the price goes up to a certain level, then we will issue more Endow to meet that demand. So mm-hmm. It's truly demand and supply, which is key.
Definitely key. And can you give a snapshot for the viewers who aren't familiar with Endow, and where is it at right now and being in the market? And have you partnered with lots of different partners and different exchanges to help bring access and liquidity to the currency?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I told you, we funded a company called Onero that helped build the currency, Endow. Endow is open source, and it's run through a foundation, the Axiom Foundation. So it's completely open source. The blockchain is built on Cosmos Tendermint, delegated proof of stake. It's its own native blockchain. And it was originally launched, the actual blockchain has been live mainnet now for over 2 years. And there's a native wallet in iOS and Android. And it was originally launched on a small exchange called Bitmart, and later added Bittrex Global and now Liquid. And there are plans now to get it on some much larger. We've signed agreements. The group has signed agreements with much larger exchanges to grow the overall liquidity. There is a group working on a wrapped Endow. There's a lot of really interesting projects in the ecosystem. A lot of node operators are coming online as well. So overall, I think the ecosystem is really growing. One of the biggest partnerships that I'm particularly excited about is recently a network promotion firm. There's actually a public company in the U.S. called InvestView, and they're a big Bitcoin miner. And they own a company called iGenius, which is a network marketing firm. And they have over 30,000 people in their affiliate network, 30,000 people worldwide. And this group is now promoting Endow in countries like Egypt, France, Germany, Italy, Korea, Japan, Colombia, all over the world. And what I particularly like about that is this is an early majority kind of affiliate network. They're going after new people that are coming into crypto. And so the adoption for Endow has really been quite fantastic through that group. last week I believe people in 37 different countries purchased and are now holding Endow in their wallets.
Very cool, Rob. That's great to hear. And looking forward in the future, there seems like there's so many different use cases potentially for Endow, with everything from obviously the long-term store of value, the proof of stake, DeFi, central bank digital currencies, expanding into more liquidity, more access. In the next 6 months to a year, let's say, what are the primary focuses on growing the Endow platform?
Yeah, that's a great question. So ultimately, the number one goal here is to increase the network of owners and uses of Endow, and really bring it to the early majority. And we believe that that can be done through more exchanges, larger exchanges, and larger exposure. So that's kind of the number one priority. Number two priority for the team in the near future is highly localized marketing efforts in places like Egypt, in Greece, in France, in Korea, in Colombia, really bringing in those localized markets. All of the marketing material, promotion, website, apps are all being localized in those native languages, and there are native teams. So that's important. And then to really go after the DeFi market today, we've got to wrap Endow. We've got to get it into kind of the Ethereum marketplace. So you'll see that coming pretty soon with some pretty cool reward programs around that. And then finally, institutional acceptance, particularly around CBDC in emerging market economies. As I said, Endow was built with a lot of institutional level controls. And so the idea here is to bring that type of functionality to emerging markets as potentially a CBDC or an alternative currency.
Definitely, all great milestones. And those countries that you're targeting, I feel like that's a great first market for some of these currencies that haven't been doing so well, where those the patrons there are looking for a long-term store of value. So I'm looking forward to seeing the adoption in those locations. Now, you mentioned Endow trading on a few exchanges already. That's great. For the viewers that are looking to follow along for these updates with the wrapped Endow and all of the other updates that are coming to the platform, what's the best way for them to follow along and to get involved in the community?
Yeah, so Endow.io, NDAU.io is the website. On the website, there's an extensive knowledge base of videos on everything Endow. There's a blockchain explorer if you wanted to really see what's going on the blockchain. It's in details. And from that website, you can also go to the Telegram channel, the Twitter, etc. And we'll look to see more multi-language support as well on Endow.io coming soon.
Sounds great, Rob. I will leave all those links in the description box below as well. All the best with Endow and your projects moving forward, and let's follow up in the near future.
Thanks. I really appreciate your time today, and we're thrilled to be here.